Hey CY, Kristen here with week 2 of It's Personal. So, you know how you can know someone without really knowing them, not really getting them? And so actually the majority of people feel that way, like they don't have anybody who gets them 100%. But we were made to have somebody who gets us, who understands us, who knows what our real life is and gets it, right? We were made for that. And so wouldn't it be nice to have people who just understood us, who just knew us, who got us? So this brings me to Zacchaeus, which Mr. Matt introduced to us last week. Zacchaeus is a man from the Bible. It's a story. He was a Jewish tax collector who lived in the city of Jericho. And one day Jesus was coming through. And so he wanted to know, like everybody else, who is this Jesus, right? He was curious. And so he climbed up a tree. First of all, when I hear the name Zacchaeus, the first thing I think about is the song I used to sing in Sunday school, which talked about Zacchaeus being a wee little man. Zacchaeus was short, which I can relate to. And so he climbed up a tree so that he could see Jesus. Obviously, there's a large crowd. Large crowds followed Jesus everywhere he went. And so Zacchaeus was interested enough and wanted to know enough about Jesus that he climbed up a tree. And so to give you a little bit more background on Zacchaeus, he was a Jewish tax collector who would collect taxes from the Jewish people to give them to the Roman government. Okay? So he was like the IRS back in biblical days. So oftentimes by his community, he was already viewed as a traitor because the people back in biblical times, they didn't have a say-so on the amount of taxes. It wasn't, some law on, this percent based on your income. It was just, I guess, whatever the Roman government felt they wanted or needed. And so Zacchaeus was one of them being a Jew, yet he took money from them. And a lot of times back in those days, the tax collectors would add a few extra dollars to what they took from the people just for them to pocket themselves, right? So he took taxes from his own people to give to the Roman government. So that in and of itself, he was already kind of labeled a traitor, an outsider. Not many people liked tax collectors back in the day, but how many of us know that Jesus looked out for the mistreated? He looked out for the poor, and nobody was better at mistreating people or making people poor than Zacchaeus, right? And so Jesus is walking by. He stops at the tree that Zacchaeus is up in, and he talks to Zacchaeus. And it's actually a scripture in Luke chapter 19, verse number 5. It says, "When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, 'Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today.'" First of all, like my first thoughts when I read that was like, these days, that would seem kind of rude or not very polite to invite yourself over for dinner, right? You come up to somebody, and at this point it's a stranger, and say, "Hey, or even a friend, I'm coming over to your house for dinner. Have it ready," But back in biblical days, it was actually like when someone come over your house for dinner, it was to send a message of friendship. So last week, Mr. Matt talked about how Jesus called Zacchaeus by name. So it's personal. Jesus knew Zacchaeus' name. They had never met. But he's like, "Zacchaeus, come down, go fix me some dinner," right? So in Luke 19:6, it says, "So he, Zacchaeus, came down at once and welcomed him, Jesus, gladly." So why do you think Jesus invited himself over to Zacchaeus' house for dinner? There's probably lots of possibilities there, but we'll go with because Jesus cared about what Zacchaeus cared about, right? So Jesus understood that Zacchaeus just wanted to belong, right? He just wanted to fit in. And Jesus went to his house to show that he did. And so of all the people in Jericho who is at this big event of Jesus coming into town, of all the people that Jesus could have went to their house to have dinner, he stops and goes to Zacchaeus' house, the outcast, the traitor, right? The one that like nobody likes, no one, and I'm sure everybody was like, what just happened? You know, it's the tax collector. And so, but Jesus, that was his whole message. He wanted to let Zacchaeus know, hey, I know you, I get you, and I care about what you care about. And so if you have ever wondered what Jesus thinks about you, the story of Zacchaeus hopefully is an encouragement to you. Because the bottom line is, it's personal because Jesus knows what matters to you. The personal Jesus surprised Zacchaeus and definitely shocked the people around Zacchaeus by announcing that he was going to his house. So do me a favor. Over the next few days, I would like for you to do two things. Number one, talk to Jesus about what matters to you. Ultimately, yes, Jesus knows, right? He knows everything. He knows the beginning to the end to the beginning. He knows us. He knew us before he ever formed us, right? But talk to him. Have that conversation. Number two, I want you to talk to others about what interests them. So number one, talking to God or Jesus about what matters to us. It's a us thing, a me thing. Number two is a others. I want you to go and talk to others about what interests them. I want to read a quick scripture. It's from Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. It says, rather in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. So look out for the interest of others, okay? Do you know what matters to the people you know? Do you really know them? Really? Do you get them? Don't be quick to answer. Stop and think about that. Have you taken the time to be personal enough to try and get them? To really know them the way you want to be known, right? So the principle of reaping and sowing. In the same way that you want people to get you, to know you, the real you, your real world, then do that for somebody else. When we take the time to make it personal with others, we are living like Jesus. We can be a Jesus to another Zacchaeus. We can show them, hey, you do care. You do fit in. You do have people who care for you. So it's personal because Jesus knows what matters to you. Now you have the chance to go and do the same for others. So again, take this next few days, talk to Jesus about what matters to you, and take the time to be personal with someone else and find out what interests them. So I love you. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I can't wait to see you on Sunday. Bye.